Hello everyone and welcome to Been Watching, where I talk about what I've been watching, this time covering what I watched in June. So let's get right to it, starting with how I opened this month with Disney's Bolt. Bolt plays a superpowered dog on TV but believes everything in his show is real. Accidentally shipped to New York and under the impression his owner Penny is kidnapped, he sets off on an adventure to find her. The first thing that will probably strike adults, particularly film grads like I, is the absurd point of attack. The cast and crew of Bolt must record the show in one take. It's helmed by an auteur director who wants to hide the real world from the dog, so he believes that the show is reality, maintaining a convincing performance. Yeah, whatever, it's silly. If I were a more traditional angry critic, I'd rant about it for hours. But it's just the setup for a good premise, so no matter how silly it is, well, whatever. Now, I grew up during the time of the film's release. Although I didn't see it in theaters, it still takes me back. For example, Disney decided to throw one of their actors a bone, Miley Cyrus, who voices Penny. I don't know why they got her instead of someone more famous like Hannah Montana. But it also takes me back to that state of animation. At the time, Disney was secondary to Pixar in terms of popularity, which I have to imagine how it affected the studio. Disney was subordinate in their own namesake. But I look back fondly on the stuff they put out there trying to make a place for their studio at that time. Like Chicken Little has a very toony style, Princess and the Frog is the last hurrah for mainstream 2D animation, and Tangled is another take on a classic fairy tale. And Bolt has a different feel than all of them. It's kind of like the in-between of a Pixar movie and a DreamWorks movie. It takes place in modern times in a modern setting, and given the silly setup, as I said, it has an off-premise that makes for a story that hooks you nonetheless. I like how Disney-esque it is, but also how not Disney-esque it is. I guess I just appreciate how Disney wasn't such a homogenized style at that time as it is now. I love Mittens, this jaded but nonetheless cute alley cat. She's sort of the grounded voice, the straight man to Bolt's delusions. And, well, speaking of voice, her actress is perfect. I found her really entertaining. But the character also has a past that hits me as a cat owner as hard as it did the first time I watched this a couple of years ago. It's a tightly paced movie. Action sequences, comedy, good character moments, setups, payoffs. Not a second is wasted. Thinking about some of the responses my friends have had to this movie, well, one's pretty funny. One friend I have had said that she believed that Bolt in the movie was actually going to be a superhero dog, that all his powers were going to be actually true. I suspected deceitful marketing, but that wasn't the case. All the trailers and commercials were up front. I guess she's just a silly goober. And then when her sister told her that, I don't think Bolt's actually a hero in the movie, she got really upset and was like, no, Bolt is superhero, he has superpowers. That's just a funny story that I thought back of rewatching this. Another comment that my girlfriend made actually is because Bolt realizes that his life was a lie, Bolt was red-pilled. And even though she said it as a joke, it drew about comparisons to The Matrix and perhaps other stories like these that made me appreciate the movie more than I had before. Oh, but getting into that involves light spoilers, so skip to this time if you're worried. In The Matrix, Neo realizes that The Matrix is a whole lie, that everything in that world is fake and synthetic and should be disregarded. Later in the movie, Mittens trains Bolt on how to behave like a real dog. But at the end of the movie, Penny is placed in danger, and Bolt saves her using all the tricks and powers he had in the show. So at the end of the day, beyond just becoming a real dog that Penny can take home as a pet, he is also actually a superhero. All his abilities he still utilized to save her. So unlike The Matrix, Bolt's past, as synthetic as it was, is just as valid a part of himself as the present dog he is. And I like the plurality of identity the movie presents from that. So Bolt's a Good Boy, or movie. I enjoyed it as much as I did the first time, in fact likely more. The next movie I watched in June was my girlfriend's choice. Well, she got to choose Bolt, but this was a movie that she introduced me to. I had never seen it before. Little Miss Sunshine. After his release from a mental hospital, Frank Ginsberg, played by Steve Carell, joins his sister's family. However, when her young daughter gets accepted to compete in the Little Miss Sunshine beauty pageant, the whole family scrambles to road trip across America to California. Now, I was hesitant going into this movie, partially because of how it looks. Hey, I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but hey, I was worried. I was worried that it would be pretentious, but thankfully that wasn't the case. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, because I like this movie, I'll start with my one and only gripe, which is it does step at least 1 foot into the pretentiousness I thought this movie would be, but only through about one line. The teenage character says something along the lines of, "Life sucks, so do what you love." And I'm thinking, yeah, okay, if only it were that easy. But yeah, it's only one line, and I can't have too many qualms about it because it does feel appropriate for that character, the sort of teenager who feels like he's figured life all out. So yeah, I can take issue with it, but also, it does feel pretty authentic to that character. In fact, a lot of the characters present authentic. That's one of my favorite things about this movie. I'm reluctant to call it a dramedy. It's about equal parts drama and comedy, and I might just be hesitant to use that word because in one of my classes, my professor said, don't pitch a show as a dramedy because that's just a nebulous phrase that producers don't really get a sense of. But if I'm too much of a coward to say dramedy, I'll say it's well-rounded emotionally. The theme of family, the road trip, and the silly antics they get into along the way reminded me of Vacation. In fact, I made that comparison next to my girlfriend and she said, yeah, this is like Sundance Vacation. It definitely has movie moments. It's not completely grounded, but the characters themselves, their true essence and personality, feel genuine and real. I think that viewers who watch this will likely recognize a character as someone from their own family. The father went through this sort of self-help, achieve your dream class, and because of it, it's aged well, his character. He is like the poster boy for toxic positivity, as we would call it today. I also like the casual homosexuality of Carell's character. It's not portrayed through excessive, definitely not stereotypical characteristics, neither is it thoroughly underlined. It's a movie that doesn't make his sexuality a point to prove or a function to serve in the story. I like the understated and subtle hand used here in this representation. I'm going to touch upon the theme, so if even that's spoilers to you, skip to the next section, I guess. The theme is Misery Makes Us, and I like its commitment to that. There aren't any silver linings to the story. I feel like any other movie would have given Carell's character a new boyfriend, or any of the other characters a slight glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. But it's rather dreadful for all of them. That's not to say the ending's unsatisfying. It is. In fact, this is what I love about the ending, is that it's committed to its theme. It doesn't present a silver lining to pacify the audience with any sappiness. I like that it talks the talk and walks the walk. I'm gonna talk about some of the shows I watched, starting with Phineas and Ferb, Season 5. My girlfriend's a big fan of Phineas and Ferb. I liked it as a kid, and I admire it even more now. But it ended on a proper conclusion. The characters underwent arcs. So to see them revert to the status quo in this season disappointed us. We were really skeptical, watching the first episode of Season 5 with grumpy faces, unflinching at any joke until... well, there's a twist in the first episode that got us. And after that, we couldn't stop laughing. We went on from the next episode to the next episode to the next episode. It's as good as it was when it left off. One episode in particular where Phineas and Ferb make a pet spa struck me as, wow, this is classic Phineas and Ferb, and this is Season 5, years after it first premiered. Even though the animation is tweenier than last time and we wish it had stuck to the integrity of the original conclusion, we're pretty happy with how it turned out. More good episodes are still more good episodes. And that's a phrase I can't say about the next show Janie and I watched. A late 90s, early 2000s show, 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd. I'll let the intro explain itself.
I'm Eddie McDowd. I'm a dog and I talk.
That's not really accurate. Only the nerdy kid can hear him. Okay, I'll give the intro another chance to explain itself.
I used to be a kid, a bad kid, and then I messed with the wrong guy who turned me into a dog. To be a kid again, I have to do 100 good deeds, and the only person who can hear me talk is the last person I picked on.
Much better. Now,
Once upon a time I was a kid.
well, okay, so you have this inaccurate log line, a narration of the premise, and then a song explaining the premise again? The concept reminded me of one of my favorite sitcoms, My Name is Earl, where Earl in the past was a no-good scammer but turns his life around and tries to fulfill good deeds from a list he'd made. It's actually interesting because usually in a show, a character does something wrong and keeps doing wrong or is motivated by something selfish or otherwise immoral until the end when he fixes it. Instead, Earl, in the beginning of every episode, is always motivated to do the right thing and is always trying to do the right thing. So My Name is Earl is appealing. It's like a problem-solving show. But 100 Deeds for Eddie McDowd falls into the typical character is doing something wrong in the beginning of the episode and has to fix it by the end. And because of it, it leaves a sense of confusion in the inappropriate response Eddie has towards the premise. There's a sense of urgency behind the premise. Eddie should want to get back to being a human as fast as possible, but he starts almost every episode being the same troublemaker he was that got him into this mess. To the point that my girlfriend and I said, it's almost like Eddie likes being a dog. The show feels confused. Is it about Eddie trying to do good deeds, or is it about a rowdy dog and a nerdy kid? So considering Eddie's behavior, not every episode is dedicated to a good deed. And with 100 of them to do, how many seasons did they expect to get? Spoiler alert, more than they actually did, which is only 2 seasons, so I guess Eddie's stuck chasing his tail. That said, Eddie's the highlight of the show. He's the reason my girlfriend and I kept watching. He's voiced by Seth Green, who sells almost all his lines.
$80 for a doggy collar? Oh, it's sterling silver. Well, that might look nice against my fur.
And sometimes it's like he's enjoying himself so much, it sounds like he improvs.
No, stop, Eddie. Not going to bite. Good deeds. Think good deeds. Wow, he's strong.
Not to mention, we love the dog's look. The bandana, the wristbands, and it looks almost like he has eyeliner. He reads punk. But beyond his character, a part of what drove us through season 1 of the show is morbid curiosity. It's weird. Very weird. For one, the magical drifter guy sends Eddie's parents into a void of non-existence.
What's going on? Where's my family?
Your parents don't exist anymore. And they won't until you do enough good deeds to get turned back into a kid.
That's not fair, man.
Sucks for them, I guess. Which is a question that I think everyone would ask, but given the answer, you probably were better off not addressing it. Another weird thing is Eddie's doggy urges. Now, chasing a frisbee or nabbing some french fries is one thing, but it gets too much when he crushes on a Pomeranian.
You have a crush on a dog.
Get out.
You two will make beautiful puppies together.
Yeah, I didn't need to think about that. As odd as it is, the episodes are just bad. One subplot is literally the family trying to get the TV working. Many would be drab had they not strung me along with Eddie. Season 1 ends on a cliffhanger. Eddie must save his nerdy owner's life from a falling disco ball, even though he already saved his life a few episodes prior, so it's not even that good of a cliffhanger. We know what Eddie would do, but also, what makes it worse is that it never follows up on it. Not to mention, season 2 lacks the life of the show, Seth Green, featuring a pale imitation.
I'm Eddie McDowd. I'm a dog, and I talk.
And then the sister moves out in season 2, a student exchange sort of thing, so a pale imitation of a British person comes in?
What a cute flat! I can't wait to meet me new mom and dad.
Oh, yep, that's one heck of a flat, not a house. No houses exist in Britain, we just have apartments, I guess. But yeah, even though season 2 seems to realize that it needs to pick up the pace in order to end doing a good deed seemingly every episode, it wasn't enough. Eddie's stuck at 60 by the end of it apparently, but I don't want to see the end of it, I think. We've only started season 2, and I think my girlfriend and I will quit. It's gotten into idiot land with Carney's kidnapping the boy. So that's what I've been watching in June. If you've seen any of these, tell me in the comments and tell me what you've been watching. As you can tell, I was a bit modest on movie watches this month. That's because I delved into the special features and research of a certain movie project that you can see me do a Zibboyeye reviews on, hopefully in a couple of months. I know I said that a few months ago, but I shifted to a project that's more manageable than the last one I attempted, and I already have all the research written up in an introduction for the movies, so, well, stay tuned for that. But even if you don't watch that, thank you for watching this, and if you liked it, well, give it a like, subscribe. You don't have to, but either way, love you guys, take care, and see ya.